What is up, people, and welcome back to my F1 2017 career mode here at the Chinese Grand Prix for round 2 of season 2. And as always, before we get into today's episode, if you are new around here, don't forget to go and hit that subscribe button. Also, if you have managed to miss the first episode of this brand new season, definitely go check it out. It's probably my best ever race so far on F1 2017. There was battles galore and a, photo finish. So definitely go check that episode out if you haven't already done so. There'll be a card annotation in the top right hand corner of your screens, and there'll also be a link to the playlist up there as well. But like I said, we are here now at the Chinese Grand Prix for round 2 of season 2. Now just getting into the practice sessions as we usually do, coming down towards the line as we've done the track acclimatization, getting a purple score on that one, which means we have 50 resource points added to the bank, and that's really going to help us upgrade this car across the rest of the season. Of course, we made a lot of upgrades coming into Season 1 with those 5 upgrades, 3 through the different aspects, and then of course 2 on durability as well. So we've made a few upgrades so far this season, but we would like to make a lot more to really progress and trying to catch up to the Force Indias and the Williams. And hopefully within the next couple of races we might even start to be able to buy the major upgrades as well, so hopefully we can do that very soon. But ending practice 1, doing the practice programs, finishing in P15 on the super soft tyres. We had a little quick run on the qualifying test, but unfortunately with the qualifying test we just couldn't get the target time. We just weren't quick enough around this circuit, missing out by over a tenth of a second on our second go of it in free practice 2. Unfortunately, we just weren't quick enough to beat that practice program. So that is 50 points, unfortunately, dropped there from that one. But P12 at the end of practice 2. So that's not too bad at the end of the day. And we did manage to beat my teammate of Nico Hulkenberg as well. But this time now in practice 3, doing the race strategy one, because it is supposed to be raining during the race. It's supposed to be intermediate weather for the whole entire race. So I thought, why not do the race strategy one on the intermediate tyres? That'll give me the best possible telemetry from this session to be able to go into the race and have a good idea of what I can do there. So far in that practice session, unfortunately finishing way down in P15, but the track did dry out as the session went on, so a lot of those guys that finished ahead of me did have a track which was a lot drier. So I'm thinking in the wet weather I could have a chance of getting some points, but I just need to be quick enough in the qualifying session in the dry to be able to give myself a really good position to take advantage of that. But what can we do in qualifying? Let's find out.
We'd like to welcome you from wherever in the world you join us today for this F1 qualifying session here in Shanghai, China.
Here we go then, qualifying time for the Chinese Grand Prix. We come through the final corner for our first lap in this session in Q1, coming across the line to 135.762, which at the moment is good enough for 7th place. However, it's only really good enough to beat the 2 McLarens and the 2 Saubers at the moment. Although we have gone faster than Danny Kvyat, we're not actually too bad. In fact, we're in P12 at the moment, but a lot of guys will be improving their lap times as the session goes on through the final corner. And we were looking like we could have been very close there with our previous best lap time, but unfortunately just losing the back end way too much through that final turn. Unfortunately, this lap time just was not quick enough at the end of the day, and we were way off the pace, 4 tenths off the pace on our second lap in this Q1 session. Now coming down towards the hairpin on lap 3. So far at the moment we're about 3 tenths up on our previous best lap time, and a good exit out of that final hairpin gives us now 4 tenths up on our previous best lap time. Currently in P15, which means that we are safe at the moment, but there are a lot of drivers who will be setting lap times right behind us. So we come across the line now in this qualifying session. What is the lap time gonna be good enough for? It's P11 at the end of the day, and that will get us straight into Q2. So that's a fantastic result for us. We were struggling a lot in the practice sessions, but it looks like we picked up the pace here on the Saturday, and now we are within about 0.03 of a second of my teammate Nico Hulkenberg. So that's a really good sign coming into this session, as we're now setting our first lap time in Q2. Of course, we would love to get into the top 10 shootout, but I don't think that is going to be a possibility here today. So that's a really poor first lap in Q2, 136.109. So we should definitely be able to improve on that lap time. So we come around the final corner to start our final lap in this Q2 session. Unfortunately, just missing out on the delta time to be able to set 2 flying laps at the end of this qualifying session. So unfortunately, it's only going to be the 1, but as we come in towards turn 1 and turn 2, you just want to sort of let the car slow itself down through that corner and just sort of feed it through and get the get the apexes correct through turns 2 and turn 3, as we're on the throttle through turn 4 all the way down in towards the hairpin of turn 6 now. What can we do under braking? Braking at that 100-meter board, down in towards second gear, and at the moment we're looking very close with our previous delta. Of course, I feel like We were very good on our previous lap, the first lap in Q2, through the first sector. It was through Sector 2 and Sector 3. That's where we lost a lot of time. As you can see, we're now 3 attempts up on our previous best lap time in towards this double left hand, running it a little bit wide, completely missing the apex there. It's not going to hurt us too much, but it certainly lost a bit of time towards the best possible lap time that we could have set. But we did gain on our delta, which is really good to see, in towards this next left-hander, braking the 100-meter board once again. Now through the right, putting up into third gear, and then through this second long snail section corner. Unfortunately, messing up this corner as well. Not tight enough to the apex as we should have been, and we lost about 2 tenths of a second on our previous delta time. So we probably could have gained 2 tenths on this lap just through that corner alone. But we come down this very long, the longest straight on the Formula 1 calendar, all the way down in towards this hairpin. Now, under braking, and keep it nice and tidy, putting it down in towards second gear, maybe riding the curbs a little bit too much through that corner, but at the moment we are 5 tenths up on our previous best lap time. In towards the final corner now, braking at the shadow, clipping the bollard there on the left-hand side. DRS open, down towards the line, is 6 tenths up on our previous best lap time, but is it good enough to get us into Q3? No, it is not, unfortunately. Only good enough for P12 at the end of the day, which is still a solid result for us. I was struggling with pace all the way through the practice sessions. It looks like we managed to find some in the qualifying, and we actually managed to beat my teammate of Nico Hulkenberg as well, which is really, really good news in this qualifying session. But unfortunately, we will be starting today's race down in 12th position, not into the top 10 this time around like we were at the Australian Grand Prix. However, it just means that we're going to have a bit of fun in P12 and hopefully work our way through the field and get a few points here today. But that is it for the qualifying session. Let's see what we can do in today's race.
Not one of the easiest days to go racing. It's damp, it's slippery, there's dark clouds as far as the eye can see. The rain is here then, and that's going to take away a lot of the grip, Anthony Davidson, and make turn 1 very interesting indeed.
Yeah, it's these kind of conditions where you can go in with one of 2 mindsets. You either see it as an opportunity, or you're worried that all of your hard work's about to be undone. We've been stuck in these conditions now for a few hours, more or less this kind of intensity, so we don't seem to have too much standing water, so we're not likely to be starting behind a safety car. And like you say, Crofty, the charge down into turn 1 will be quite interesting. I think we're in for a cracking Grand Prix.
Before we get into the race, though, let's take a look at the starting order for the Chinese Grand Prix. And lining up in pole position, it is Sebastian Vettel in his Ferrari, and Valtteri Bottas lines up alongside him on the first row of the grid. On the second row, it is a Mercedes and a Ferrari once again, Lewis Hamilton in third and Kimi Räikkönen in fourth. Then it's a Red Bull third row lockout with Ricciardo in fifth and Verstappen in sixth. Then it's Massa 7th, Sainz 8th, Kvyat in 9th and Sergio Perez 10th. Then Kevin Magnussen in 11th, myself in 12th with my teammate Nico Hulkenberg in 13th. Then it's Grosjean 14th, Ocon 15th, Fernando Alonso is in 16th with Lance Stroll in 17th, Stoffel Van Dorn 18th, and then we have the 2 Saubers of Pascal Wehrlein and Mark Selksen right at the back of the grid. So what can we do in this rainy race here today from 12th on the grid? Of course, we will be using the intermediate tyres for today's race, and I'm predicting there was going to be intermediate tyres throughout the whole entire race as well. So that'll be interesting to see. Hopefully there is a bit of strategy change going on through today's race, because that could actually really help us gain a few positions. But at the moment, looking at the session forecast, it is going to be damp throughout the whole session, which means it's going to be intermediate tyres all the way. But a safety car or something like that, a couple of safety cars could certainly give us a chance of getting onto the dry tyres. We now go to 5 red lights for the Chinese Grand Prix, and it is lights out, and away we go for today's race. It's not too bad of a start in these wet conditions, but it's a great start from Nico Hulkenberg on our left-hand side and Roman Grosjean on the right as we go down in towards turn 1 now, getting the job done on Nico Hulkenberg's. Roman Grosjean just goes straight into the back of his teammate. We had to make avoiding action and actually getting a collision there with Nico Hulkenberg. It all kicking off at the start of this Chinese Grand Prix. We've now got a McLaren on the right-hand side of us of Fernando Alonso. What a fantastic start he has had in today's race. We go down in towards turn 5 and turn 6 now. We've got the job done on Fernando Alonso. Now, can we dive it up the inside on Kevin Magnussen in towards this right-hander? We go for it up the inside. Maybe have a little look on Sergio Perez as well. If we can get a greater exit out of turn 6, we could get that 10th position away from him, which we have done. And there we go, moving up into the points for today's race, but running it way too wide through turn 7 there. And that's now given Sergio Perez the job in towards turn 8. Can he hold it? Yes, he can. Gets the inside line and manages to tuck in front of myself in towards the corner and gets the job done before we get into the double left-hander of turn 9 and turn 10. So there goes Sergio Perez moving up into P10. Now I'm right on the edge of the points in today's race, but 11th place is not good enough. We need to get some points in today's race, and hopefully we can do that as the race goes on. But let's have a look at a replay of what exactly went on down at the start. There was chaos between myself, Romain Grosjean, Kevin Magnussen, and Nico Hulkenberg. It was a battle of the Hasses and the Renaults down towards turn 1. So Romain Grosjean gets a better start on us, goes up the inside, and there he goes. Just goes straight into the back of his teammate, goes into a spin. Very good avoiding action from myself to get out of the way of that one. But unfortunately, I think I just clipped Nico Hulkenberg and might have actually given him front wing damage because of that collision. Hopefully we haven't done that, but I think there is an end plate missing on the front right there from Nico Hulkenberg that I saw on that camera angle, and that's how we got past Fernando Alonso, who actually had a really good start. So I'm intrigued to see what exactly went on for the McLaren driver. But let's have a look at the start on board with myself once again. So just look for Nico Hulkenberg on the left-hand side. Then we have Romain Grosjean diving up my right-hand side, and there we go, straight into the back. There was nowhere else I could have gone. It was kind of helped that Romain Grosjean was on the side of me, because that sort of pushed me over to the left instead of me going straight into the back of him and getting a broken front wing or something like that. And then, of course, was the battle with Fernando Alonso as well. Where on earth did he start? I'm pretty sure he started way down in 16th place for today's race. So to be up in 13th at that point is a really good start there in the wet from Fernando Alonso. Now let's have a look at the guy who caused all of that damage down in towards turn 1. Just goes straight into the back of Kevin Magnussen. So he goes up the inside of myself and just brakes way too late. Kevin Magnussen going for the inside line and puts Romain Grosjean into a spin, and there was the contact. That was how Nico Hulkenberg broke his front wing. We're going to get a clearer view now on board with my teammates. We go down in towards turn 1. A good start there from Nico Hulkenberg. Much better than myself. Unfortunately, he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time there for Nico Hulkenberg. Just a little touch from myself, and then just had nowhere to go. Romain Grosjean was right in front of him, and unfortunately just goes straight into the side of the Haas driver. And that is pretty much going to be his race over, because losing a bit of front wing in this race can really, really hurt you, as we now have a look at a replay on board from Fernando Alonso. So it looked like that inside line was a lot better down in towards turn 1. He gets the job done on Esteban Ocon, gets a little tap there from the Force India driver, and just sort of got past the Haas and, of course, my teammate as well, and then went for the look for P12 in towards turn 1. And that is pretty much how Fernando Alonso got a good start. So it wasn't really done too much on merit. Helped out quite a lot there by Romain Grosjean having that collision down towards turn 1. But nevertheless, Fernando Alonso, good start up into P13. So we're now having a look at a replay on board with Max Verstappen, who's dropped down into 8th position for today's race. Let's see what happened to the Red Bull driver. They went 4 wide down in towards turn 1. Very tight between these guys. Lucky that there's no serious contact between the 4 of them, as Max Verstappen sort of got hung out to dry there, put onto the grass, and Carlos Sainz dives up the inside to get that position back and moves up into, I believe it is P7 for the Toro Rosso driver. So a good start there for Carlos Sainz. Bad start for Max Verstappen, unfortunately, losing out so many positions. But we're now cutting ahead to the end of lap 4, start of lap 5, as we're now caught up to the back of Sergio Perez once again, right on the tail of Danny Kvyat too. So we've got these 2 drivers ahead of us, and we could possibly be in a battle for 2 points here today. So we're going to go wide at the start of turn 1, then tuck it in for the inside line turn 2. So go side by side there with Sergio Perez. He just sort of runs it wide, gives us the position, and thank you very much, Sergio Perez. We will take P10 at the end of the day. That is a point on board at the moment, and now we'll be closing down Danny Kvyat and seeing whether we can move up into P9 as well. Fingers crossed we can do so, but we're just going to have to wait and see for that one. So we're now catching up to the Toro Rosso drivers to go down in towards the hairpin now. Danny Kvyat just ahead of me at the moment. So we go down in towards the penultimate hairpin. Yellow flag has come out. Now, is that a driver ahead of me? Is that Danny Kvyat, who is having problems in today's race? It doesn't look like, looking like it on the mini-map, it is actually a driver behind me. It's Sergio Perez, the guy that we've literally just overtaken on the previous lap, is now out of today's race, unfortunately. Really disappointing there for Sergio Perez. But can we do a similar overtake on Danny Kvyat like we did on Sergio Perez down in towards turn 2? Unfortunately, we can't. Just not close enough there to Danny Kvyat to get the job done, move up into P9. So for now, we're going to have to settle for 10th position in this race. But I feel like it's only going to be a matter of time before we get past Danny Kvyat. It looks like he is struggling quite a bit in these intermediate conditions, as we're now having a look at a replay of what exactly happened to Sergio Perez. So I'm assuming there's going to be an engine failure for the Force India driver, unfortunately. But let's just get confirmation of that as he goes down in towards the hairpin, right to my tail. In fact, he wasn't too far off the back of me. The yellow flags came out there, and I presume he just pulls over to the side of the track. Unfortunately, with the spray, you can't really tell whether it's engine issues or not, but Sergio Perez, unfortunately, is out of today's race, and he will not be scoring any points further on. But here we go, now on the back of Danny Kvyat once again here on the end of lap 7, start of lap 8. So what can we do on the Toro Rosso driver down in towards turn 1? Can we do a similar move like we did on Sergio Perez? This seems like it's going to be a really good overtaking opportunity for us. I think we did quite well down towards turn 1 and turn 2 in last year's Chinese Grand Prix in the wet conditions as well. To go up the inside of Danny Kvyat once again, fairly simple move there on the Toro Rosso driver, just like Sergio Perez. Just run it a little bit too wide on turn 2, just to sort of give me the room. I'll take that at the end of the day, but unfortunately there for Danny Kvyat, he has lost out on P9, and we have moved up into 9th position for today's race. So far, so good in this Chinese Grand Prix. I did say in the final practice session that I thought I was going to be quite good in these wet conditions, but looks like we are a lot better than I thought. We're up into points at the moment. There's a few drivers now coming into the pits for today's race, including the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton. So we were actually scheduled to come into the pits on lap 9, but I'm deciding that I can actually hang these tyres out, and I'm going to see whether I can do a one-stop in today's race. It might be able to move me up the other midfield drivers and possibly sort of the best of the rest in today's race. We come out just behind Valtteri Bottas as a few more drivers come into the pits on that previous lap. So we're now coming under pressure from Lewis Hamilton. I'm not really going to fight him too much. I'm just trying to save my tyres at the moment in today's race. But Lewis Hamilton really trying to get past me in today's race. I brake really early just to give Lewis Hamilton a position, but then he moves over to the left, goes really slowly through the hairpin, and that sort of allows me to have a switchback maneuver. I didn't mean to do this, I just sort of meant to get out of his way, and somehow had a better exit on the Mercedes driver, and then let off through the throttle, through the final corner. Once again, really slow from Lewis Hamilton on exit out to that corner, really holding me up. So not only were we just trying to give him that position to not lose too much time, we've actually lost a lot of time from doing that because Lewis Hamilton just doesn't know how to drive in these wet conditions for some reason. Going really slow out of the corners. Must just be compromised by the line that we were taking and the two of us going side by side. But there wasn't really any need because I was giving him that position. We now cut it to lap 14 at the moment. You can see our front two tyres are 78% worn at the moment in today's race. Looking up down towards the hairpin isn't going to help that, as we're now on 79% worn at the moment. So we just need to sort of get a wriggle on with these tyres. We were sort of scheduled to come into the pits now if we were going to do the one stopper, but I decided 79% worn, I can take that for one more lap. If I can be sort of quicker and have more tyres available at the end of the race, I'm going to be a lot better with that, because that's probably where I'm going to need to start defending from the other drivers. At the moment, I'm safe because I've got nobody around me, so I can just sort of drive my own race. But I feel like at the end of the race, I'm going to come under pressure from those other drivers. As the yellow flag has come out, Roman Grosjean is now out of today's race. Not like that really matters too much. He was way down at the back of the field after that first lap collision. Really cost him in today's race, as we're just coming down to overtake Roman Grosjean now. Well, I say overtake, lap him, as he was way down at the back of the field. So unfortunately there for Roman Grosjean, he is out of today's race. But we are now going to be coming into the pits for our first pit stop and our only pit stop in this Chinese Grand Prix. Hopefully it is a good pit stop from the Renault crews. We have Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso behind us out on track at the moment. We're coming into the pit lane now, swooping in for the left-hander and pitting from P7 in today's race. So far, it's been a pretty decent race for us, you know, getting ourselves up into P7 and just driving a really solid drive. But we just need to make sure that this strategy works for us. If it doesn't, then this could be really, really bad timing in the start of the season. Because, of course, we've had a great start so far, getting that podium, getting that P2 at the Australian Grand Prix. Of course, we do want to build on that in today's race, and we do not want to be outside the points because of a stupid strategy call. So, hopefully, we've made the right call at the end of the day as we come out of the pits in P11, which isn't too bad. We have a few drivers who are doing a two-stopper ahead of me, and then, of course, we have the leaders as well. So it looks like at the moment we should be on for that P7 once again as everybody else comes into the pits. As we now have a look at a replay of what's happened to Roman Grosjean. So he goes through the sort of second snail corner there. He has to drive right to his tail. It's Valtteri Bottas lapping him in today's race. He just moves over to the right-hand side. You can see smoke pouring out to the back of that engine. That is not spray, that is smoke coming out the back of Roman Grosjean's car. And unfortunately for him, it's an engine failure in only the second race of this season, which is really, really disappointing there for the Haas drivers. We now cut it to lap 18 of our own race, hunting down the Haas driver of Kevin Magnussen. This is for points now. This is for P10, so we need to get past Kevin Magnussen as soon as possible, so then we are in clean air to sort of better ourselves and maybe catch up to those guys who are also doing the two-stopper in today's races. It looks like Kevin Magnussen goes up the inside in our favourite overtaking position on this Chinese Grand Prix circuit, and there we go, up the inside of Kevin Magnussen, moving up into P10, and once again, just sort of leaving us way too much room through that first corner, and it was a fairly simple overtake as well. As Danny Kvyat now into the pits for today's race. That's going to push us up into P9, and we're going to have Felipe Massa now coming into the pits as well. So that should put us up into P8, which it does, which means it's only Carlos Sainz which has to come into the pits for today's race. So hopefully we can get past the Toro Rosso driver as well. So he should be coming into the pits maybe on this lap or in the next one. So we just have to wait and see for that, as there's a yellow flag out down the long back straight. Is that Carlos Sainz? Yes, it is. Carlos Sainz is now out of today's race. The virtual safety car has been deployed here today. But Carlos Sainz now out of today's race, and that's going to push us up into P7. So far, this race is looking really, really positive from where I am standing. P7 at the moment after starting down in P12. And it's looking good. It's looking like a really, really good race at the moment. But we need to make sure that those guys on the two-stop strategy stay behind us. Like so Felipe Massa. You've also got, I think, Sergio Perez might be up there as well. No, Sergio Perez is out, so you've got Felipe Massa definitely hunting us down. And I think maybe Danny Kvyat and Lance Stroll are the other guys who might be starting to catch us up in this race. As we're now watching a replay of Carlos Sainz to see exactly what's happened to the Toro Rosso driver. Was it another engine failure? Was it our third engine failure of today's race? Yes, it was. That's our third engine failure of today's race. I'm pretty sure there was 4 engine failures at the Australian Grand Prix. There was definitely 3, but I'm pretty sure there might have been 4 engine failures in that race, which is really strange to see. The reliability is worse in Season 2 than it was in Season 1. That is really, really strange to see. There's another yellow flag out in today's race, down in towards that long back straight. Team's really struggling with that long back straight. Maybe acceleration hurting the cars, and it's Valtteri Bottas this time who is out of today's race. I believe he was actually running in the lead of this race. So Valtteri Bottas, unfortunately, from the lead of today's race is now out, unfortunately. I'm not 100% sure whether he was leading the race or not, but he is definitely out of today's race. As you can see, the tyres now really starting to struggle in today's race. You have 4 laps left to go in the race, and as you can see, 61% worn on both front tyres. And we've also got, for company behind us, Felipe Massa. So it looks like going into the 4 final laps of this Chinese Grand Prix, we're going to have a battle on our hands between myself and Felipe Massa for this 6th position, which we have now inherited from Valtteri Bottas. Luckily, though, with the yellow flag coming out, that means that Felipe Massa will not be able to go for the overtake down in towards the hairpin, but he may be able to go for the overtake in towards the start-finish straight. I don't think so, though. It looks like he's dropped off quite a bit through that hairpin, so it looks like we are going to be safe through the final corner, as we now have a look at a replay of what exactly happened to Valtteri Bottas. So once again, was it a 4th engine failure of this race? If that is, then the reliability in Season 2 at the moment is absolutely dreadful. And yes, it is. Look at the smoke pouring out the back of that Mercedes car. And that's really, really unfortunate for Valtteri Bottas. I don't think he was actually leading today's race, but he was definitely in a podium position. Definitely in a podium position there for Valtteri Bottas. That's really, really unfortunate for the Finnish driver. But we're now cutting ahead to the penultimate lap of this Chinese Grand Prix, going down in towards the snail section of Turn 1 and Turn 2. Loose the back end, dipping a wheel on the grass. A big old drift there in towards Turn 2. A good save through that corner, but that is a massive drift through Turn 1 and Turn 2. Luckily, managing to hold on to it, but now coming under pressure from Felipe Massa in this race. We've got 1.5 laps left to go, and the tyre wear is now 78% worn. If we can go by the first stint earlier on in the race, the tyres should last till the end of the race. So at the moment, it is looking good that our tyres will last till the end of the race. We're now coming under pressure once again from Felipe Massa. This time, down in towards the back straight, in towards the penultimate hairpin as Massa goes to the right-hand side. We squeeze him over on the right-hand side, give him the worst possible line through the hairpin, and then open up our line as we go around the outside of the Williams driver. Nice run around the outside through the hairpin, and a great drive out of the corner to get the acceleration on the Williams and move up into P6 once again. But 81% worn on those tyres. It's looking dodgy with 1 lap left to go in today's race. So hopefully these tyres will last and we can hold on to this position ahead of Felipe Massa and Esteban Ocon ahead of us as we go down in towards turn 1 and turn 2. And disaster has struck us at the final lap of this Chinese Grand Prix. We have a front left puncher. It is gone. The front left has gone in today's race. There is still, however, a chance to hold on to the points. We can't hold on to 6th position. Felipe Massa, you drive on, mate. You drive on. There is no way that we can hold on to P6 in today's race. The tyre exploding now in today's race and really struggling under braking, of course, as you would be with a puncture on your car. And we're just trying our best to get this car back to the start-finish line. We've got Fernando Alonso running behind in P9. So it looks like Sebastian Vettel is going to come across the line. And Sebastian Vettel wins the Chinese Grand Prix. It is back-to-back race wins for the Ferrari driver, who now extends his lead in the championship. 50 points on board for Sebastian Vettel. We are still struggling on this final lap. Alonso gets past, Kvyat gets past, and we have now dropped down into 10th position. But luckily, there is a big old gap. So I believe it is Lance Stroll behind us in P11. If we can hold on to this position ahead of Lance Stroll, then we could still get some points in today's race, which would be really good news. Of course, we do not want to throw this away. We're running in P6, and to not get any points out of that would be a real disaster. It would be so frustrating. So we need to keep it clean. We need to keep it on the circuit and not make a big mistake down in towards the final hairpin. Here we go through this long-winded right hand. That left tyre is destroyed. Absolutely destroyed in today's race. Just trying to get this car back to the start-finish straight to try and get this P10, but at the moment it's not looking like it's going to happen. I can't see Lance Stroll in my mirrors right now. He is way behind me as we go down in towards this hairpin, but having to brake so early and still not able to make the corner, really struggling, and it looks like Lance Stroll is going to get the position in the penultimate corner. Lance Stroll overtakes us and takes away that point. That is heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking stuff at this Chinese Grand Prix. Really disappointed to get P11, 0 points after running as high as P6 one lap ago. Really annoyed with how this race has ended. Not happy at all at the end of the day with this Chinese Grand Prix. So frustrating. The gamble did not work, unfortunately. We just weren't as good on our tyres as the AI were. Of course, the one-stop strategy working fantastically for Sebastian Vettel, Kimi Raikkonen, Daniel Ricciardo, Max Verstappen, Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso. But unfortunately for me, it just did not work out. And I am down out of the points after running as high as P6 on the final lap, which is really annoying to see. Losing out a lot of points there to Felipe Massa and, of course, Esteban Ocon. Two teams that we will be trying to beat across this season. So we need to outscore them as often as we can. And that was a big opportunity to get some points against those guys. And unfortunately, that is opportunity wasted. But it is Sebastian Vettel who wins today's Chinese Grand Prix, of Kimi Raikkonen making it 1-2 for Ferrari. A great result for them, who are moving really far ahead now of Mercedes after Valtteri Bottas did not finish here today. That's 2 races in a row that Valtteri Bottas has not scored any points. He needs to get a high finish at the Bahrain Grand Prix, otherwise it is going to be an awful start there for the Finnish driver. Daniel Ricciardo, though, completes the podium in his Red Bull, so that's a great result there for Daniel Ricciardo, with Lewis Hamilton in 4th and Max Verstappen in 5th. Then Felipe Massa getting past me on the final lap because that puncher moves up into P6 with Esteban Ocon 7, and a great result for Fernando Alonso in that McLaren, finishing in 8th position. Danny Kvyat comes home in 9th, with Lance Stroll overtaking me at the penultimate corner, finishing in the points today with P10. Unfortunately, it's only P11 for myself in today's race. Really frustrating, and we're going to have to move on at the Bahrain Grand Prix and get a really decent result to make up for that. Pascal Wehrlein finishes in P12 behind us, with Stoffel Van Dorn 13th, and then looking further down the field, we have Kevin Magnussen in 14th, Marcus Ericsson 15th, my teammate Nico Hulkenberg 1 lap down, and at the back of the guys who finished in today's race in P16. And then we have the 4 drivers with the engine failures from today's race: Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes, Carlos Sainz, Romain Grosjean, and of course Sergio Perez as well. Disappointing races for all of those drivers. Drivers' Championship then, even though it doesn't matter after the second round of this season, we're still in P3 in the Championship, which I suppose is something after a dreadful result here today where we should have got points. We really should have got points at today's Chinese Grand Prix. It's really unfortunate that there was no points on the board here today. But Sebastian Vettel now with a 28-point lead over Kimi Raikkonen. That's a huge lead there for the Ferrari man. Kimi Raikkonen, though, now in second place with myself third and Lewis Hamilton behind me on the same amount of points in P4. But because we have got a better result than the Mercedes driver, we are currently ahead of him. We're sort of battling at the moment, though. It looks like with Felipe Massa, Nico Hülkenberg and Sergio Perez, although they are still a few points behind us. But like I say, the tables do not matter after the second round. You really should start looking at the tables after maybe about Monaco or Canada or something like that. That's when you can really start to pick out who we will be battling with at the end of the season. But at the end of the day, the only table that matters is the one at the end of the season. So we're going to definitely be paying a lot of attention to that one. But for now, we're just going to see how the rest of this season goes. Looking at the Constructors' standings then, and we've dropped down into second place, unfortunately. Ferrari getting a fantastic 1-2 here today. Extends their lead at the top of the championship to 39 points over Renault and 47 points over Red Bull Racing. And Mercedes are now 54 points behind them already in the championship. You would have thought Mercedes would be their closest competitors, but they're way off the pace after the first two races of this season. You know, tables don't matter, but in the first two races, to be that far behind, that is a big task to catch up on both of those drivers. But you never know, something could happen over the next couple of races, and Mercedes could come right back into it. But for now, we are very happy with that P2. We have a nice, comfortable lead over Force India, Williams, Haas, and Toro Rosso as well. So we are very, very happy with the standings at the moment. But that is it for the Chinese Grand Prix. If you have enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so for daily Formula 1 content. And don't forget to also share this video with your friends. And I'll see you next time for the Bahrain Grand Prix. But until then, it's goodbye from me.